kick it off to questions with Sporting Director Lutz Pfannenstiel and Head Coach Bradley Carnell. Tom, I'll give you the floor for the first question.
Thank you, John. Lutz, we'll start with you, but it'll probably be the same question for Bradley. What's the level of excitement right now as finally the games begin?
Yeah, I think for me it's a mix between excitement and also being a little bit relieved. It's such a long process of starting a club from zero. It's for me more than 2.5 years, nearly getting into 3 years. So I think that finally that first ever proper MLS game is just around the corner. A few more days. Makes it feel, of course, it's great. We're finally there. It was a long journey. I think, now it's time to reward ourselves for all the work we have put in all the minutes and seconds John just mentioned. It was a good job for calculating that whole last night, by the way. And we are excited. I mean, everybody's excited. You feel it at training. You feel it when you're going in the changing room with the coaching stuff. So I think everybody worked hard for the moment. The moment is there, and now it's for us to show everything and leave everything on that field.
Bradley, how do you?
Yeah, the city's buzzing, right? So when I leave home this morning, I see St. Louis City SC flags the whole way down the road. And people don't really know that I'm living in the neighborhood, but it's amazing that how the sport is and the game of soccer has cottoned on, and we know this is a very historic place with regards to the soccer, right? Soccer heritage, soccer history. And for me, every day when I leave home, that's a good reminder of that. And that just energizes me going through the last 12 months, 365 days of being here, really committed to the cause here, what we're doing, right? So, and it's fun coming to work, and it's fun seeing the guys go at it every single day. And we've been preparing now for a good couple of weeks, and as good as we can be, as prepared as we can be, we're really, got 2 more days to tighten the screws a little bit, and then we hit the ground running.
And Bradley, you've been in the league, so you know what an MLS team looks like. How does this team look if you compare it to other MLS teams?
Well, I don't have to say it based on experiences. All I can say it is based on the past 4 or 5 weeks playing against the, LA Galaxies of the world, Philadelphia's of the world, New York City's of the world, the Vancouver's of the world, Inter Miami. So we've compared ourselves against the, like the dinosaurs of the league, LA Galaxy, right? So they've been here a long time. Inter Miami, not so long, also relatively fresh in the league. So we've had good comparisons and good learning moments throughout the preseason. Great feedback, good responses, growing moments, learning moments, successful moments. So I think we've had a good look at different variations, different flavors and styles of play that we come up against and what challenges might face us. So, we're just about good as prepared as we can be.
Brooke?
Can you guys just speak to Roman Berkey being named the captain? Why was he the choice, and then Tim Parker also the vice captain?
Yes, so, I come from the way we've done it previously and the soccer tradition, how we've done it in Europe and my previous stations as a coach. The Leadership Council is basically voted by the players themselves. So we gave the players to go on this journey of a couple of weeks of preseason. And before we got into the second camp, I gave the guys a blank sheet of paper. I said, please, anonymous, put 5 names down for me, right? So as we arrived in the second camp, I could see that Roman's name came up trumps, as did all the other Leadership Council members, right? So knowing Tim's voice within the team, Tim's voice within the league, and Roman's experiences as a person, as a player on and off the field. One thing you don't know about Roman, he's a very giving person. He's a very caring person. And he cares about the individual as well as his teammates, and he holds us to high standards. So I think we couldn't have picked 2 better guys, plus the rest of the Leadership Council.
And Lutz, if you could touch on that as well. Obviously, you brought him over here. Were you hoping that this would be the outcome of him being the inaugural captain for this team?
Yeah, I think, the position of the captain, of course, is always very important. I think Bradley explained it very well. There is obviously a few guys which have a certain experience, but also a certain stand within the group. And Roman is a professional through and through. He works hard. He's a role model. He lives and breathes football like a professional does. And I think you get that feeling in training, but also when we are together as a group afterwards or at the camp, that these 2 guys Tim Park as well as Roman. That's where the younger guys looking for advice, asking questions, and I think that is very important that you have a little bit that caring character, as what Bradley just mentioned. So I think that's the two guys which I think we are very fortunate that they will lead our team. And I think we touched two very nice brackets there. We have one guy who was very successful in Europe in one of the biggest leagues in the world, play Champions League, and we have a former American international, which is in general a leader, a loud player, a player which also intimidates opponents, but he's very, very good towards his own guys. So I think with them too, we have a very, very good voice in the team, and like Bradley said, a very, very good voice in the league.
We'll go to Bill and then Corey Miller.
Brad, from what you've seen, not so much just in this preseason, but for your prior years in the league, does the league indeed have an overall style of play?
I think you have to differentiate between East and West, right? I think there's different styles of play in the East as opposed to the West. I see a lot of teams playing very expansive in the West, and a lot of teams in the East playing very direct and a little bit more vertical. So that's just a broad statement. Obviously, there's nuances and differences within and out of possession. So, but that's some of the differences that I've seen within the league and within what's coming our way. But what I have seen over the last year, not being directly involved on a day-to-day with the MLS, how it's grown, right? So every year I've been here since 2017, and I've seen a big sort of uptick in the quality and the names. The players are getting younger, they're getting more aggressive, they're getting, there's a lot of good things going on in the league right now, and I'm privileged to be part of this moment moving forwards and spending the next couple of years here.
Corey, if you just want to grab the mic.
For both of you guys, historically it can be tough for an expansion team to compete in standings in that kind of area in their first year. But since this has been in place for so long and you guys have had maybe longer than a normal expansion team would to get ready, how is that going to help you?
We looked at the predictions a few days ago where nobody fancies us at all, which is great. I think everybody looks at us as a normal expansion team. We are an expansion team in the end of the day, but we did have a bit of a different preparation, of course, having a big number of guys, roughly 50% already in 6 months earlier. But that's it always depends on what we as a group really make out of that, what the ownership gave us that opportunity. So I think, to be fair, most expansion teams are considered to be the outsider, be the underdog, and I think we need to live with that role, and we feel comfortable in that role as well. And it's an extra motivation. If nobody fancies you, you're trying to work extra hard. And I think, we spoke a lot about the playing style. We spoke a lot about the mentality we want to have on the field. And again, this is that extra little carrot which we're having in front of the players now, that we want to work extra hard. We work already very hard anyway. We are a very physical team. We are a team which is, I would call it, you can call it intense from our way of play, and that's what we're going to do. So it's no point to expansion team or not, or outsider or not. It's up to us. We need to perform. We need to play. We have our principles, and once we have them in place, we will get the points.
Yeah, from my side, I would just say that we want to be competitive from day one, right? So what does that mean? Is it the style of play? Is it now, our second homegrown signing within the span before we've even kicked the ball, right? So with Miggy Perez and Caden Glover. So for me, we see little milestones, and one of the grateful things that I feel really, Lutz got me in here 1 year prior to. And I'm so grateful and happy and privileged to be coaching these guys for the last year to see the progression, the Kyle Heberts of the world. These are guys, credit to John Hackworth and all the other people who were here before me as well, that found these little gems and were able to polish them through a style of play. And then all of a sudden, we have already created our history, right? We've already created some success stories with winning the Western Conference in City 2. So all of these little milestones for us, we take forward and we grow the very next step now. And our next step now is playing in the MLS. So But in terms of pressures and what we put on ourselves, that's all up to us. What do we put on ourselves, right? Because there is no pressure, right? There's no relegation system. We can just play every day free. We can just play like every day. This is a celebration for us to be part of something special. We've built something special here, and that's how we want to take the field of play.
We'll go Ben Hockman, and Tom Schwartz, Santi, and then Ryan.
So, and thanks for doing this today, everybody. First game, right away, you get to face the guy who had the most goals in MLS counting playoffs last year. Can you describe that task of defending Sebastian, and just for like the fans in general, what makes him such a good player that you guys will see on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, he's a gifted player, right? So when he gets the ball in transition, he's a danger, right? When he gets the ball in possession, he's got the ability to take you on 1v1 and create final moments for himself. And he can supply for his teammates. So, you know, he has to be kept up. I think that team's pretty talented in terms of individual talent. They have a certain style of play that's evolved over the last 2 seasons. We know the story of Austin in year 1, and we definitely know the story of Austin in year 2. So Josh has done an amazing job in staying true to what they want to do. And now you can see the rewards come to there. Now that gives us fueled, ambition to go against a really good team in the Western Conference. And what better opponent to go down into Austin and to, again, celebrate our style of play, celebrate what we're doing, the new kids on the block, and we want to just continue the celebrations there.
Lutz, you've had such an interesting and unique job over the last few years here. Could you share with us a few things that have surprised you?
Nothing really surprised me, because I knew when I started that it will be really unique. Actually, I'm very honored, to be honest, to got that opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime for a sporting director to take an expansion team. I mean, outside the US, there is no expansion teams. In the US, there is once in a while there is one coming in, but then again, St. Louis was not the normal expansion team, because we decided we start literally from ground zero. Some teams, they bought another academy. Some teams already had a youth system in place. We on purpose decided, the ownership and myself together, that we want to have a completely clear plate. We want to have no connection whatsoever in the start and really build our own idea. So that was the biggest challenge. I won't call it a surprise. I will call it a challenge. The only surprise was that I didn't see my wife that much in the last 2.5 years. So because we did a lot of work, and looking at that, what Bradley just said as well, we have already homegrown players, which was not to expect really after that short time. Last year, I mean, we talk a lot about the next pro that we won the Western Conference, but we had really, really successful seasons with our MLS Next teams, with the academy teams. We finished 3rd with the U16 team nationally, which is something which you build from scratch, not really expectable. And that just showed me to a little bit of a surprise that how big soccer actually is in the St. Louis area, how many talents are here. It's a little bit like a well which never dries out, looking at the talents who came out from this city. How many players born in St. Louis playing now in the MLS? How many players born in St. Louis will play in future in the MLS? Well, Miggy Perez and Kaden Glover were the first 2. There will be a big number to come. I was actually, after our game against Atlanta, I jumped in the car just really when the referee blew the whistle. I went out to Grief Court to watch our academy games against Scott Gallagher, coincidentally, and that was all St. Louis kids on that field, and there is so much talent, so much promise, that this was for me the biggest takeaway I had. The rest was a lot of planning. What else? I'm surprised that we have the best facility in the country. It's, again, we are a new team. It's something you can't expect. A plan, a piece of paper is one thing, but then once you stand over there in that thing, it's breathtaking. We have a training facility which is, I think every player who comes in the morning, every coach who comes in the morning in there, they're looking forward to go to work, because it's amazing. We have everything what we need. We were everything given what we need to build a successful franchise on a longer term. And I'm not talking only about the first season. It's my job, I think, to think a little bit further. And I think that the patience and the passion sports fans in St. Louis have, looking at the Blues, looking at the Cardinals, and now also at us, that I think is something fantastic. But I feel that we have unconditional support from everybody in the city, from our sponsors, from the Taylor family, from everybody, from you guys as well. That is very emotional and surprising and simply really, really good.
Santiago?
Bradley and Lutz, you mentioned achieving different milestones, playing without pressure, knowing this is a process. With all of that in mind, what does success look like for you at the end of this first season?
I'll let my boss answer that one.
Yeah, actually, Bradley somehow answered the question before. I mean, on purpose, we didn't say we want to reach that position, or we want to win that many games, we want to have that many points. I think that's not the way to go into the first season. We have a nice comparison, because we're going to play against a team like Austin, which had not the best season, finished last in year one. They kept calm, they didn't change the coach, they didn't panic, they kept the players together, and somehow they finished second, because they had a certain consistency, a belief and a trust in their plan. And what we have right now is we're still in the middle of a process. So we do trust our process. And Bradley mentioned the word competitive. If we go out there and we compete every single time, and we go out there, especially over here, you're right in the stadium now, and we make life as difficult as possible for every opponent who comes here, and we always leave 110% out there, then I think this is the goal we must have. This is how success looks like. Success is for me that we have homegrown players already in our squad. Success is for me that we have lots of players who play next year MLS Next Pro, playing now in the first team. That's also not something which lots of teams would do. Oh, new team, let's spend a lot of money and bring players from all over the States in to be immediately there. No, we sign players from our Next Pro as well, because we believe in the guys, and they do exactly understand what our philosophy looks like. That's how I would define success. So be competitive, be out there, and that starts actually on Saturday when we take the first time the field. We want to compete, but I don't think we have that pressure that we need to tell us, let's finish on position 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. I think that will come by itself. Results will also come by itself. We need to believe in what we do. We need to stick to our principles. And I think that will be our success in year one. If we sit here again next year, I will probably tell you a few different things already.
Lutz, excuse me. Lutz, you played such an integral role in building this from the ground up. What's the biggest takeaway from you, and why will that help propel this organization to success in the future?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway was that we built something which fits into St. Louis, that we did not kind of have that idea to say, okay, let's build a kind of Miami, LA style football franchise in the Midwest. That would simply not fit. It would be cool and it would be sexy for the first few weeks when everybody goes out there and sees like a World Cup winner and some older top superstars. Is that really what people want in St. Louis? Honestly, what I learned here, St. Louisans, they like hard work. They like to be people who are modest. They like to be people who are like them. And I think this must be our approach. I think we somehow build a philosophy and a DNA for the club, which is very Midwestern, which fits to the people who will be in the stadium, which fits to the people who support us, which also fits to our ownership. I think that was the most important thing, to create something genetic, something which is real, and not create some artificial piece of dream football which will not succeed in the long term. I think that was my biggest takeaway, that we need to be organic and not trying to be the big time Charlies.
We'll go Ben, Fred, Greg Palermo, then Phil Grooms.
For either one of you guys or both, as the self-described new kids on the block, what was your reaction when you heard the news, and I'm sure you knew before most of us, the playoff is expanding and now there will be a bigger group of teams that get in, and can that be even more of that carrot that you talked about for a team that is still in its first phase, having a better chance of making that first cut?
For us, it's important to hit the ground running, right? And where that pans out on match day 34, we will see where that gets us. But, how we structure our season, we track certain KPIs. We want to play according to a style of play. And if we can see and analyze over every 8 to 10 games, and see where we are. And for me, the very first, how you start the season is pretty much you gain that momentum. So can we get some momentum early on? Can we get some points on the board? And, a snowball, it starts very small. And once it starts to get momentum, it becomes unstoppable, right? So now there's no saying how it's going to go, but if we feel that we build enough identity, culture, pillars of foundation, and starting points for what we want to believe in and how we want to play, I think that's first and foremost for us. Where it gets us in 6-7 games, right, remains to be seen. But as long as we stay true and consistent to those messages, that will give us a platform for the next 6 games and the next 6 games. So we just want a continuation of what we are trying to do and what we are striving for. So we're just excited to get out there, and how that figures out and where that pans up on match day 34. And if we're in and around that position, great, also be it. And if we can stay in contention as long as possible, even better so.
So take us to what Saturday is going to look like. Walk us through what that looks like. Do you know? I don't expect you to spill the beans now, but certainly welcome to. But what your starting lineup looks like, what your 20 looks like.
Yeah, so we've given guys a lot of minutes, right, throughout the preseason. We've given guys a lot of opportunities. We've given guys fair opportunities to present themselves. We've given time for relationships to be built on and off the field, whether it's been positionally, whether it's been units, backline, midfielders, attackers, strikers. So we've given these positions and units enough time to gel together, and obviously it's a work in progress, and obviously we strive to get better every day as the day before. But we're looking forward to a team who travels on Friday. We'll take 20-man roster down there. The players, will know more or less on that Friday, where the chips lay. And they'll make sure that they're professional enough. And for sure, there's messages. This is pro sports, right? 11 guys can play. We believe in everyone on the roster, and even the guys that will remain and stay behind. We'll make sure that they progress and even get better on the days that they're not involved with the traveling team. So for me, it's a holistic approach about everyone getting better every single day, and not just based on a performance or a result. So we bring in everybody along, and then on game day, there's a lot of individual meetings. There's a lot of video preparations. There's a lot of togetherness. There's a lot of eating when you're in the hotel. For pro athletes, they need to get fuel up and save up all the energy to really, let it rip at 7:30 Central. So, that's pretty much what it looks like.
Let's go to Phil and then Brendan Lacey.
With the playoff format being announced yesterday, Lutz, I've heard you're familiar with Phil Neville, and so he had some comments about it. I'm just curious what you guys think about the new format that there is.
Every time I look at Phil, I just think I talk to myself. Just a little bit. You're a little bit lighter than I am, so I don't know what did Phil say. I didn't read what Phil Neville said.
Oh, he wasn't a fan.
He's English, so so I think for Europeans, it's sometimes a challenge with the playoffs. I think we see it positive. It gives us another incentive. There is 2 more spaces out for grab, which is great in the first year. But in the end of the day, I think we are not too concerned about and thinking that far ahead. We need to really think from week to week, from cycle to cycle. And as Pirelli said, if we are close in that kind of region of the playoff spots before we finish in the season, it would be great. But we shouldn't put too much thought in it right now. Let's think about Austin. Let's think about Charlotte, and the rest will come by itself.
Coach, knowing the circus and party atmosphere that awaits you guys in about 9 days, could you argue that it's a benefit for the club to open up on the road Saturday?
No, I don't necessarily see it as a benefit. We want to embrace, if we were home on the home opener with our fans, that would have been amazing. we get to do it and roll it out on the 4th of March against Charlotte. So for us to go away, we've had good travel, right? We've had good away games. We've got this rhythm with City too. So some of these, Lutz said it, over 50% of this team has been on this roster during City 2 travel weeks, right, and weekends. So we know what's coming our way. The boys, we've prepared them strategically, mentally, psychologically in a way that they'll be ready for what's coming, with them playing in front of a Q2 stadium to capacity. That's a celebration of football, and we hope to play the party poopers on match day 1. So we hope to, stifle what they're trying to do to us, and we hope to penetrate and exploit spaces where opportunities arise. So yeah, we're going to take that as a fueling, driving force and turn it into our energy and really live off of it.
We'll go back to Tom. We've got time for 2 or 3 more after Tom. So if you have a question, let me know.
Bradley, a lot of guys on this team who have never played an MLS game before. For the Klauses and Leuvens of the world, how has their transition been, their acclimation with the league, and how do they stack up?
Yeah, I think if you look at Edu Leuven, his home stadium was Olympiastadion in Berlin, which is an 80,000 plus seater. So I think he's had some pretty decent experiences. He knows what a full house looks like, and he knows what a hostile environment also feels like. So Klaus thrives on that type of hostility. You tell him you can't do something, he'll prove you wrong. You know what I mean? So I think we have good characters in this team that are trying to, even though they don't have MLS experience, they have their own experiences in their own rights. And for us to collectively come together and put that on display and thrive off of that energy that everyone doubts us, I think that's added benefit for us because that just fuels us even more.
Santi?
Bradley, can you provide an update on the status or the injury recovery for Max Snyder and Joachim Nielsen?
So Max Schneider is currently training with City 2. Getting him up to speed there and getting him into regular game minutes and progressing him along really well. And his, feedback with Bobby Murphy every single day, City 2 head coach, that he's doing really well. So we're excited that he's getting up to full speed and full fitness. Joachim, we put out, I think, a presser, a month ago where we see him a little bit down the line. There's no pressure on Joachim. His whole integration in terms of the team. He's part of our leadership council, because that's how, even although he hasn't trained with us, the people value his leadership in the locker room. People value him as a person. So, when you have a gem like this as a human being, and he's not able to contribute, from a practical standpoint, but in the theory, in the video room, he's always commenting, he's always giving us little helps and tips based off of his experiences, right? So for him, we learn off of him every single day, even though he's not on the field. So for us to progress him smartly in a wise manner, but again, that's I would say towards the end of April, May, we'd start seeing him a little bit more on the field, and hopefully, during the summer that he could get some reps, but no pressure on Joachim.
We'll wrap up with Tom Schwartz.
Okay, Coach, for you, Saturday, how are you going to treat it? Try to treat it as a normal day? Will you get up earlier, sleep later, try to take a nap? What's your day going to be like?
So one of the best things about me is, I stay pretty even keeled. I don't get too high or too low, in the same instance, because if you over expect things, the game will swallow you up and chew you out and spit you out. So for me, stay even keeled and take every day as it is, and it's a regular game day for me, and that stood me well through a World Cup. That stood me well through my 18 years as a player, standing me well through 11 years of coaching. So for me, just treat it like a regular game day, and we'll see from there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Lutz, Brad, thank you so much for taking your time. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.